Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Dolores Tarver. I'm a licensed psychologist here in Georgia, and it is time for the tea. Tea Time with Dr. Tarver is a wellness based podcast. It is not intended to be a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health provider. Welcome to the last week in May. Yes, this is actually the last week, as opposed to me thinking the last week was last week. I sat here and was waiting for some people to show up for evaluations on Saturday, just completely forgetting that it was a Memorial Day weekend and there was another week of May. Yeah, just a little mental fog. It just happens. I will be back in my office waiting for those same evaluations and for the people to actually come on this upcoming Saturday. Sometimes you just have to laugh at yourself. I get tickled, but I got some good things done. I told you all last week that I was going to be intentional about finding some options for publishing for this journey of 6 years that I've been on with this book. And that actually brings me to my topic for today. So, this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I've talked about support and repetitive loops, and also got into being under construction, and that sometimes you're in a bit of a state of disarray as you're waiting for some things to move forward that need to be adjusted. Some change needs to come in. So, as I was looking at publishers, so I created a list of potential publishers, and so I just, went in the order and started with the first one, went to their website, looked at their requirements, and started submitting my information because, again, written, so I have all of the information that I need, or so I thought. And so they start asking these questions on their website about this publication and the audience and what's different about what your book is going to offer and what books are similar to your book in the same market. How would you be able to market yourself? What are some of your social media platforms that will be used for engagement, sample chapters, all regular stuff. And when I tell you at some point, I think I was fine initially. Oh, here's what my book's about, and here's my target audience. And then as I started having to upload sample book chapters and what are the books that would be in a similar market for you and the price and all, and I really I got nervous because then all of the things that stop us, right? All of the things com- that interfere with us moving forward with our purpose, and that is what today's episode is about. Is prioritizing your purpose, and and I the comparison behavior, I mean, is my book really going to be that different? Like, how? So, all of these things that I think have tripped me up in this journey altogether, the reasons that there's been start stops, the reasons that there's been no movement for months at a time um, on it before I made the commitment here on Tea Time that I was going to finish it actually last summer. And so here we're coming up on a year in July. And I was thinking to myself, like, you could have easily let another year have gone by and sat on it. And so I started thinking, what interferes with us following through with things that we know we're purposed to do? And so let's talk about it. I think sometimes we forget the original vision. You know, when you have a purpose, it's a calling. It's not always necessarily something that you want to do. I think it's more of something that you know your purpose to do. That in you doing it, there are going to be these other things that happen. So for some people, when you operate in your purpose, then someone else needed to see you operating in your purpose so they can then operate in theirs. So I think that sometimes there's, if you will, purposes that are linked, connectional, if you will, so that we are allowing other people to be released, to not be bound, to not be scared, to not be hesitant, to step out on their faith, to hear our stories and be inspired, to see our movement and be compelled, right? So there is, I think, in everybody's purpose, other people who benefit from it. That I think is pressure sometimes. That when that perfectionism kicks in of, is it good enough? Am I good enough? Is it me? You sure it's me? One of the questions that was asked by the publishing site was, why are you the person to write this book? And I thought to myself, why am I the person to write this book, right? Because sometimes you forget the vision and you have to go back and remember what it is. And so the other part of that is not only is me walking in my purpose tied potentially to someone else's, because that's not, of course, ever the only reason why we do things, because you can be really other focused and kind of lose yourself when you do that. But also because the vision was written and it was plain. In that vision, that's the framework, that's the guideline. You will find in your life when you're not operating in your purpose, you'll keep coming back. You'll keep circling back. That thing that you struggle with, you can't quite walk away from it. You don't feel like you're ready for it, but at the same time, you can't release it. And so until you do that work, until you're following through in that promise that you made to walk in that purpose, you're gonna circle back. It's like that X, that you keep coming back to, like I don't know why I can't shake this person, why I can't let this go. It might be something that you told someone you were going to do, maybe somebody that you loved and cared about, like, hey, one day I'm going to do this thing. And so it may feel like, hey, until I can honor that, honor my word, stand by that commitment that I made, follow through on promises, then I can't move forward because I feel as if I haven't done what it is I was supposed to do. And I think sometimes when we lose sight of the vision, it can get warped. And so we don't necessarily remember what that initial vision was. And so all of these other things come into play. One of the things that, I've told you, I did different things, writing workshops, videos, trainings, all the different things that I try to utilize in order to get myself from that stuck place of why it was so hard to just finish and release. And I think, in one of the things that they talk about is that you'll have ideas for other books while you're writing your book. And so a children's book popped into my head, and then there were all these other things, and you'll find yourself working on that and getting excited about that. And then you won't necessarily have as much passion in that journey to your purpose. Like, it's not always passionate in that journey. And so that's why that vision is really important, because when that passion stops, and it comes back typically, but when you've been doing something for a while, it loses that luster, and it feels sometimes like you're getting lost in it. And so it's not always necessarily a fun part. Sometimes it's agonizing to write, and you feel like you maybe just writing in circles, or at places where you just feel kind of stuck, and I don't know how to move on. I don't know what the transition should be. I know what I want to talk about later, but I can't wrap this up. So it can be a really challenging process. And so it is very easy to get distracted and do other things that seem really fun. Like, I had all kinds of ideas for this children's book, and I had to remind myself that that's not what you're supposed to be working on. God is really funny, because I told you all I had everything on an external drive, and it got damaged and it doesn't work. So I lost all of those things. And so it's funny how you'll get distracted by things, and God will be like, yep, I moved that on out your way. So that's not a distraction anymore. But when you remember what the vision is, then you can always come back to that anchor, and remind yourself, oh, yeah, this is why we're here. And so as things change, the vision is going to remain the same. It may update with some different things as time goes on. Of course, 6 years looks a lot different than now. But there are some things that are going to remain the same. And so the premise for that vision, that is still maintained, that's still steady. I think sometimes what also happens in this journey is that we get to a place where we're not really analyzing anymore. One of the things that I think is kind of detrimental, right? So if you don't get to the point in your growth and your development in your purpose where you're analyzing your why, because your why can shift. And so when you're not analyzing, like, why is this the thing that now I'm choosing to work on, that I, at this point, feel like I'm prepared to be able to take on, then your why can have you wandering all over the place. And the why will have you wondering because the why can be tied to emotions. The why can be tied to circumstances. The why can be tied to relationships. The why can be tied to financial security, right? If things are going well, then my why is present because they're going well. And so I'm motivated to move simply because things are going well. However, when they're not going well and there's some struggles going on, maybe there's some health issues or some challenges in relationships, then my motivation leaves because my why changes. That thing that was there is no longer present. And so I find myself scrambling trying to figure out the why. So if you don't keep analyzing, providing feedback to, reminding yourself of, providing support for why this vision is important, why it was given to you, and your purpose, then you will find that you're all over the place. And so that's what ends up happening is, as situations ebb and flow and circumstances change and people come in and out of your life, and changes happen in your health and your wellness or your job environment, then that's when the stopping periods are more frequent. Right? There's that strong correlation between the more that I have going on, the less I am going to be inclined to be consistent in walking in this purpose. And that's because it's situational as opposed to being anchored. And again, that takes us back to what we got. What is the original vision? So when I'm analyzing that, why is supporting the vision, it's just backing up, it's just providing credence for this is why I'm here. Because some days I won't think I'm the one. I won't think that I should have been called. I think you kind of made a mistake on that. I don't really truly believe, God, that that's my purpose. It might be somebody's purpose, but I don't necessarily think it's my purpose. And so then trying all these different things. I'm starting these new business ventures. I'm taking speaking engagements. I'm enrolling in classes. I'm doing workshops. I'm finding another area to have an emphasis in. I'm creating all these other relationships. I volunteered to do all these other things, and I'm getting further and further away from my actual purpose and from that vision. However, these are all good things I'm doing. And I think when you're confused about your why, then it is easy to then get caught up in other things that are important. They're valuable. They're not necessarily anything that doesn't have the potential to be something good. But are they what I'm supposed to be focused on right now? Or are they just distractors? Because it's easier for me to do that. It's more convenient for me to do that. I get a little bit more gratification from that. I can see a little bit more something coming out of that. We're often very achievement oriented, and so we like to be able to have some right away results. I want to say right now. I don't want to necessarily wait. In a life where you're focusing on your purpose does not always necessarily translate over into things that are going to happen right away. And I think that brings me to that. My next point is that you can't expect instant. when you're walking in your purpose. You can't expect instant. You also necessarily won't get accolades or affirmation in the journey. One of the questions from the publisher was, "Hey, on those social media, like, give us your social media pages, give us some analytics. How many people are following you? Like, what's your demographics look like?" It is very humbling to be writing a book and you say to yourself, like, "Oh, wow, should I have like 10,000 followers? Like, I'm not even, like on that level. I don't have a blue check mark. I'm not." Right? And I think sometimes that's another thing is not all the time is my gift going to correlate necessarily with people following it, people affirming it, people validating it, people purchasing it, which is really scary when you talk about, like, hey, I'm taking this leap of faith, I'm stepping out here to do something that is for people, but what if they don't support me? And I think a lot of times we feel like if I'm walking in my right path, if I'm actually walking in my purpose and my gift, then that means like I should have this tangible evidence over here to show for it. And I will tell you that there are a lot of fools with a lot of followers, and that isn't necessarily an indication that they're walking in their purpose or their gift. But it definitely it does mean sometimes that they know what sells and they know what attracts people. And I know some people who have absolutely created fake accounts and they're pretending they're other people just so they can have those followers because we we absolutely will support mess, as sad as that is. We like that. We like a little drama. People say, "Oh, I just like a little ratchet to go down with my day," because I'm not. So I like to just kind of observe other people's train wrecks while I'm passing by, sipping my tea. But I think sometimes what that does is that gives that false illusion to people that so if I'm not looking a certain way, then this isn't for me. Um, and we say comparison behavior is a thief of joy for that very reason, because you will sit and you will critique and you will overanalyze. You will think about your voice and how those pictures looked and how that video turned out and all of the things that were going on. And you'll say to yourself, yeah, clearly these are signs that it isn't meant to be. And oftentimes I will tell you we're our own saboteurs, because the truth is there are absolutely some people who don't want to see you be successful, especially if you have something that you're doing that is going to make a significant, meaningful difference in this world. Then, yes, if you are a believer, then you absolutely know that the enemy will come against you when you are walking in your purpose, because how dare you be doing something that you're gifted to do from God and you're doing it, you're going to invite other people in. Wait, that's not going to be a thing. Like, wait a minute, throw all kind of roadblocks up. The jealousy exists, and I think it's hard too for a lot of people because they perceive that the people who are going to support them most are going to be the people that are the closest to them in their circles. And when they realize, like, so my support actually isn't coming from my family, my support actually isn't coming from my friends, my support actually isn't coming from the people who I joined this organization with, like, and it's hurtful to people, because then that's also an indication for them, like, oh, well, I definitely am not meant to be doing this, I shouldn't be walking in this pathway, I should abandon this and let it go. And I will tell you that's why it's so important for you to understand, one, that it's not going to translate over into instant riches, may not translate over into riches at all. But when it's your purpose, that's not necessarily why you're doing it. Your purpose is your gift that you have to give to others. And that's your payment for receiving it. God blessed me with this gift, so I owe it to use it in ways that it will be beneficial to other people. That doesn't always translate over into likes. That doesn't always translate over into a lot of followers. That doesn't always translate over into fame. But that doesn't mean that you're not intended to do it. And I think sometimes we overthink it and we get so in our heads about it that we stop ourselves because we're thinking of all the reasons why I'm not the one to do it. When, yeah, it's you. It was you then, and it's you now, and it's going to be you until you're obedient and you do what it is that you're purposed to do. Um, I will say, as that final point, that if you're actually walking in your purpose, there's going to be some sacrifice. It just has to happen. you're going to have to sacrifice your time. You're going to be sacrificing um, the and I won't say sacrificing your talent in a way that like, oh, I'm stifling my talent, it can only be in this place. But you're going to have to be selective about your talents, because when you do have talents, people are going to call on you, right? You're going to have those competing interests, and sometimes you're going to have to say no to things, even like you're like, oh, that's in my wheelhouse, I'm really excited about that, I want to do it. However, if I'm being intentional about the time that I'm putting aside to do the things that I need to do to prepare to make sure that I'm walking in my purpose, then sometimes that means I'm going to have to say no, even when it's something that I would be super excited about and I know I would do an amazing job and I'm a good person, I'm a good fit for it, but it may not be the right time. And what ends up happening is if I'm not intentional and I'm just saying yes, then I'll find that I'm not actually cultivating my craft anymore and I'm not walking in the purpose. Like those are some of those other distractions. And that's why I think sometimes we don't realize they're distractions. Because again, like, oh no, but this is actually in my purpose too. But is it in my timing that I'm supposed to be following right now? Or is that something that may be a thing that I do later? When you're being intentional, you do have to carve out that time. I've told you all before that one of my challenges with the book is that I let all these other things um, take precedence. I let them be more important. I prioritized and focused on other things, and the book got put on the back burner. And when I had to get serious about it, like I took 2 weeks off and really finished it. That was one of the best things I did for myself, is because I was intentional about it, and it was a sacrifice because I absolutely am privately employed, and so I don't work, I don't get paid. So that meant I had to be very thoughtful about spending and putting things aside and ensuring that I was covered during that time where I wasn't going to be receiving income for those weeks. But that was a sacrifice I made because I knew that in order for me to get it done, I was going to have some distraction free time to get it done, to really focus on it, to prioritize it, and to make it happen. And that worked. I had to do the same thing when I did the first round of edits, when I sent it to someone to review it. And I'll be doing it again because as I was completing this process of submitting to this publisher, because it can take up to 8 weeks for you to hear anything. Like, hey, there's some other things that I want to do to it, because I hadn't looked at it in a little while, and so I'm like, hey, I want to kind of add this and switch this around. You know, you're reading through it again, and you're seeing some ways, and that's the other thing about it, right? When you are making those sacrifices, is that there has to be a time when you stop, um, but up until that time, you may find yourself pulling on things, adding things, new visions, new revelations, particularly if you are centered. You're praying and you might be engaging in some fasting or some scriptural reading or some intentional study, then some things will come to you in those places because you're able to receive them. When as you're busy and moving around and doing all these other things, you weren't necessarily able to receive them. So I'll take some time and do that. So that brings me to that I'm going to take a couple of months or so off. This will be my last episode until we get back started for the season. August, September, I'm not really sure. Probably September. I really want to take June, July, and August to focus on some edits and also continue on this journey of petitioning publishers because I just did one, trying to be mindful of not having too many irons in the fire. And as I hear back, then I'll make some decisions about next steps. But I want to put some finishing touches on some things and be ready for whatever that process might look like. So you all keep me in prayer as I do with you. And I look forward to what Tea Time is going to be doing in this upcoming year. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. I'm going to pray on that and think about that. If it will be a little bit different format. I know that you all like when I have guests on. There'll definitely still be some of that. But I want to be thoughtful about what the weekly episodes look like. And if I want to switch some things up a bit, and ensuring that I'm still walking in the purpose with that. It's been about 6 years since I started this journey with Tea Time, over 200 episodes. I'm super proud about that, and that commitment. But I also, again, taking the same recommendations I gave you, need to analyze and revisit that vision and ensure that I'm on track for where we need to go for this next year. All right. So, in the meantime, you all have a most fabulous summer. Enjoy yourself, rest, relax, recharge, and we'll come back even better, even stronger, even bolder, um, even more beautiful in our purpose, walking with that passion, and that pride, the priority of what it is we've been called to do. All right, so until September, be well.